You know that app you use every single day? Ever stop and wonder how it went from just a cool idea to this powerful tool on your phone? It kind of feels like magic, right? Well, the truth is, there's a powerful blueprint behind it all, a master plan that turns those brilliant ideas into reality. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
But let's be real for a second. Building software is incredibly hard. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories, haven't we? Projects that blow past their budget, miss deadlines by a mile, or, and this is the worst one, end up delivering a product that nobody actually wants. So with all these brilliant people in tech, why is it so darn tough to get it right?
Well, the answer lies in something called the Software Development Lifecycle, or SDLC for short. This is the master plan, the thing that brings some order to all that creative chaos. You should think of it like a roadmap that guides a team from a fuzzy idea all the way to a polished, high-quality product. It makes sure everyone's on the same page, all working toward the exact same goal.
Okay, so what's actually in this blueprint? Just like building a house, right? You can't just start throwing up walls without a solid plan. There are these universal phases that pretty much every single project goes through, and getting a handle on them is absolutely key. So let's take a closer look.
It pretty much boils down to these 7 core phases. It all starts with planning, figuring out if the project is even possible and what you'll need to succeed. Then you move into analysis, where you do a deep dive into what users actually need. From there, it's on to design, creating the technical blueprint for how it's all going to work. Then comes the fun part, development, where the code actually gets written, followed by a ton of testing to find and squash every last bug. After that is implementation, getting it out into the world. And finally, there's maintenance, which is all about keeping things running smoothly and making it better over time.
Now let's zoom in on 2 phases that people mix up all the time, analysis and design. The easiest way to think about it is this. Analysis is the what. What problem are we solving? What do our users need from us? It's all about discovery. Then, once you've nailed the what, you move on to design, which is the how. How are we going to build this thing? What tech will we use? You see, getting the what right is absolutely critical, because if you don't, you'll just end up perfectly building the wrong thing.
So while those 7 phases are pretty much universal, the way teams move through them can be totally different. And this is where different models or methodologies come into play. Think of them as different playbooks for the same game. Let's really dig into this by comparing the 2 most famous approaches out there.
And you can see the difference immediately. On the left, you've got the waterfall model. It's a straight, predictable, one-way road. And on the right, you have Agile, which is all about these small, flexible, repeating loops. I mean, the philosophical difference here is huge. One is a rigid, step-by-step process, and the other is a dynamic cycle of building, learning, and adapting as you go.
The waterfall model is the old-school, traditional way of doing things. Just like the quote says, you have to completely finish one phase before you can even think about starting the next one. It's just like building that house we talked about. You pour the whole foundation, then you build all the walls, then you add the roof. You can't skip ahead, and you definitely can't go back.
But hey, that rigidity can actually be a huge advantage sometimes. Waterfall is super straightforward and easy to manage. It's pretty much perfect for projects where the requirements are set in stone from day one. When you know exactly what you're building, this structured approach gives you a ton of predictability and control.
But here's the massive problem. What happens if the requirements change? Because let's face it, in the real world, they almost always do. With Waterfall, trying to make a change late in the game is a total nightmare. It's incredibly difficult and crazy expensive. You could spend a whole year building something, only to find out at the very end that it's not what the customer really wanted. And that is a huge, huge risk.
And that is exactly where Agile comes in. It's a completely different way of thinking about the problem. Instead of trying to build the entire product in one massive go, Agile is all about delivering small, working pieces of it in these short cycles called iterations. The whole idea is simple. Collaborate constantly, get feedback early and often, and adapt to change on the fly.
The biggest win with Agile is something called speed to value. Basically, you get a working product into the hands of real users incredibly fast. This means you can get immediate feedback, make adjustments, and make sure you're always building what people actually want and will use. In a world that's constantly changing, this is an absolute game changer.
But of course, Agile isn't some magic silver bullet. All that flexibility comes with a few trade-offs. Because the project is always evolving, it can be really tough to predict the final timeline and budget right at the beginning. And sometimes, in the rush to get new features out the door, the detailed documentation can get left behind, which can definitely create challenges down the road.
So we have these 2 very different playbooks, Waterfall and Agile. How on earth do you know which one to choose? The key is to understand that there is no one-size-fits-all solution here. It is all about matching the right model to your specific mission.
And this really shows that there is a right tool for every job. For a huge system where the requirements are locked in and never going to change, Waterfall is a really solid choice. For something like medical software, where every single step has to be triple-checked and verified, a much stricter approach like the V model is often the way to go. And for projects where speed and adapting to change are everything, well, Agile is usually your best bet. The big takeaway here is that choosing a model isn't about what's trendy. It's a strategic decision that has to be based on the unique needs of your project.
And that brings us to one last really crucial question. We've seen the whole process evolve from these rigid blueprints to more flexible, adaptive cycles. But now, with things like AI exploding and systems getting more complex by the day, are the playbooks we have today still going to be enough? Or are we standing right on the edge of a brand new revolution in how we build the software of the future?